Shares of J&J, Johnson & Johnson, are tanking and on pace for their worst day since October of 2008. Could be their worst day in nearly 15 years, in fact. A bombshell report this morning saying J&J knew for decades about asbestos in baby powder. J&J issuing a statement responding to this Reuters report, saying the article is, quote, one-sided, false, and inflammatory. Simply put, the Reuters story is an absurd conspiracy theory, end quote. J&J also says its baby powder is safe and asbestos-free, says studies of more than 100,000 men and women show that talc does not cause cancer or asbestos-related disease. Goes on to say thousands of independent tests by regulators and the world's leading labs prove our baby powder has never contained asbestos. Well, joining us now is the Reuters reporter who broke this story, Lisa Girion from Los Angeles. Lisa, welcome.
Thank you.
What would you like to say in response to these charges that this isn't a conspiracy theory you're reporting this morning?
Well, look, our report on the fact that J&J was aware of small amounts of asbestos in its talc, in its baby powder, in the ore that it mined in Vermont to make baby powder is based entirely on their documents. And many of those documents are posted now, and you can, if people are curious, they can read them on our website, Reuters.com.
Lisa, did the company know that there was asbestos and specifically decide not to tell the American public?
So we see that historically in the 70s, 80s, that era, there were company memos and reports where they're talking about asbestos, what to do about it, fretting about it, how to detect it, how to get rid of it. Is there ever going to be a way that we can get rid of all contaminants? So during that era, they certainly were talking about it. Today, their position is that nothing that's in those reports is actually asbestos that got into baby powder. They look at the reports and say, no, that talc was going to an industrial purpose. That mineral is not real asbestos and things like that. So right now they're not acknowledging that any of those reports reflect any asbestos going into their talc.
Lisa, in your article, you also mentioned that there were reports that date back as far as 1957 and 1958 in which there was testing of talc and that there were particles, contaminants in it that are one of the naturally formed minerals associated with asbestos. Are you saying that for the past 60, 70 years, this company knew or had suspicions that there was asbestos contaminants in talc, and that these emails have been circulating? I mean, basically, you're saying that every single generation of management has been complicit in some way in allowing asbestos to continue to be put on the market through its talc powder.
Well, it's not clear what layer of management, especially in recent decades, who knew what. What is clear is that the people responsible for producing talc, finding talc, and marketing and researching baby powder. Certainly in the 60s, 70s, 80s, that era, there are plenty of internal documents, again, that are many of them posted at Reuters.com, that show that they were aware that the ore that they mined, the talc that they produced, and on occasion, baby powder and another product they sold, shower to shower, had very small amounts of asbestos in it. And this was known certainly in the 70s. And one of the issues is that talc and asbestos are mineralogically very similar, and they often occur together in deposits. And so it was inadvertently mixed in. They tried lots of ways to get it all out. But the reports that they got on occasion that small amounts of asbestos were actually found in the talc and in the powder indicate that they weren't always successful at getting it all out.
So what's the motivation for them to keep this quiet? Is it financial? Is it too expensive to actually figure out a way to get the asbestos out of the talc? What would the motivation be for concealing this?
You know, you'd have to ask them. I don't see anything that in the record right now of the many hundreds of pages of documents, thousands of pages of documents that I've looked at that would explain that.
Lisa, finally, your reporting has established that there was asbestos in these products and some of the reasons as to why. What I'm not clear on yet, and I don't know if you can add more light on this, is does that amount of asbestos in baby powder cause cancer?
So what we know is that the World Health Organization's International Agency on Cancer for Cancer Research has listed asbestos-contaminated talc as a carcinogen for decades. That's long been known and well established. Whether any individual person's cancer was caused by exposure to one of their products is a very fact-based inquiry, and it would depend on exposure levels and all kinds of things. So I couldn't speak to any particular case, but we do know that World Health authorities have long considered asbestos-contaminated talc a carcinogen.
Would you use J&J baby powder, Lisa?
I don't think what I do really is relevant.
No, just curious, because I'm sure maybe now even friends, family members might be asking you, hey, what do I do about this? And I think that's a question for U.S. consumers, but don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, well, let me just say, my report does not at all talk about the products that they're selling today. I haven't looked, there's no evidence that what they're selling today has any asbestos in it.